Welcome everyone to another episode of the Sitrep podcast, your forward operations space for all things military and historical wargaming. I am your host, Oriskany Jim, and today I am joined by my better half, Jennifer. Miss Jennifer, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Looking forward to getting a chance to fly some fighter jets.
Alright, so as Jen has alluded to, we are changing gears on a number of levels today. All through the summer, we've been doing a lot of World War II 80th anniversary content. We had a lot of material to cover for the Battle of Kursk and the invasion of Sicily. And since then, we've been trying to hedge our way back into moderns. So clearly, as you can see on our title slide today, we are jumping into basically 5 minutes ago as far as modern content goes, and taking a break from ground combat and trying something in the air. We're going to use the AirWar C21 system by Wessex Games to try and approximate some of the very, very few, but nevertheless very interesting, air-to-air engagements we saw in the opening weeks of the Ukraine war. It might be a touchy subject for some viewers, but Sitrep Podcast did get its roots as a modern wargaming channel, and it doesn't get more modern than the current Russo-Ukraine war of 2022 to 23 so far. So this is the kind of stuff that we're going to cover. Okay, so with that out of the way, this is the situation in the Zhitomir and Kiev Oblasts in mid and late March of 2022. So I picked this particular time period and this area of the conflict because this is where I was able to nail down one of the very, very few fighter-to-fighter actual dogfight engagements that have taken place so far in the Ukraine war. So believe it or not, there hasn't been that much air-to-air combat in the Ukraine conflict so far. Clearly there's been a lot of air operations, but usually those are Ukrainian fighters trying to interdict or intercept and shoot down incoming Russian cruise missiles. There's also a lot of operations with drones on both sides, but honestly, there hasn't been that much air-to-air combat. The Ukrainian Air Force is actually quite small, and believe it or not, the Russians have not really committed the vast majority of their VVS, conventional fixed-wing Air Force. The airspace over the Ukraine is a very deadly environment because both sides use all kinds of surface-to-air missiles, especially since the Ukrainians have started getting Patriot systems and other surface-to-air missile systems that are very, very effective. And of course, the Russians have been slinging up plenty of their S-300s and S-400s. So the particular engagement area is over the Zhitomir Oblast we see here on the western part of our screen, and the date is mid-March 2022. I think the exact date was March 13th. I might be off by a couple of days here. And this is where we saw a guy by the name of Stepan Tarabalka of the 40th Tactical Aviation Brigade and a couple of his wingmen engage some Russian Su-35s, their newest flanker E's. This is unfortunately where Stepan Tarabalka was shot down and killed. That's why the date kind of sticks out in the history and how we're able to actually nail down the fact that there was an air-to-air engagement here at this particular place at this particular time. This was kind of a big deal when it happened because at the time there was a lot of talk that Tarabalka might have been the Ghost of Kiev. Later on we would kind of learn that the Ghost of Kiev wasn't really a real thing. We can say this much: Tarabalka was definitely one of the ghosts of Kiev, along with the rest of the 40th Tactical Aviation Brigade and other units of the Ukrainian Air Force. All of those Russian aircraft losses we saw in the early days of this war, they certainly didn't shoot themselves down. It was just more of a unit effort, as we so often see in real combat operations. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's take a look at some of the game data we'll actually have on today's table. We have all of the special maneuvers that people can use in the AirWar C21 system. Okay, so here is our game map for today. As you can see, we are located over the city of Zhitomir. I should say that this is a Soviet-era map, so apologies if any of these names are misspelled. Believe it or not, I wasn't able to find a tactical pilotage map for the current war zone over the Ukraine. Surprise, surprise. So this map is badly out of date. This is our first try with the war in Ukraine, so we're keeping the forces very, very basic and very small. It's basically 2 pairs of fighters. We're going to have a pair of Russian Sukhoi Su-35S variants coming in out of the northwest there, and they're going to be intercepted by 2 MiG-29s of the Ukrainian Air Force. Specifically, these are MiG-29 Mu-1s. Basically, this is the Ukrainian version, the Ukrainian modernization of the old MiG-29, which I think first entered service in the Soviet Air Force back in the late 80s. So, let's take a look at some of our stats. We're going to scroll down a little bit. As you can see, they are very, very similar. We have the Ukrainian MiG-29 on top, and we have the Russian Su-35 underneath. They both have the same minimum stall speeds. The Su-35 is a smidge faster. They're both high-powered. They both have the same acceleration curves, deceleration, and so on. The first big difference that you find between them is over here in their maneuverability. The MiG-29 is a much, much smaller aircraft. So that's going to be reflected here in their maneuverability. The Su-35 is very maneuverable, don't get me wrong. It's not like the Mirages or the Phantoms or some of these other flying bricks that we've had in previous episodes that featured the AirWar21 system. However, compared to the MiG-29, yeah, the Su-35 is not quite as maneuverable. Okay, scrolling over a little bit, we're going to see where that big size difference continues to bear out in the differences between these two aircraft types. The MiG-29 is a relatively normal-sized fighter, and so has a relatively normal damage capacity, 6. We've seen this in many other fighter types in previous episodes featuring AirWar C21. Where it gets crazy, though, is in the Su-35. This thing is monstrous, and it has a full 50% extra damage points in its airframe. This is going to be a bit of an overgeneralization, but if you guys remember back to the late 80s when these two aircraft first came out in Soviet Air Force service, the MiG-29 was kind of supposed to be the Russian answer to the F-16, whereas the Su-27, again, the Su-35 is sort of an upgrade of the Su-27, was originally intended as the Soviet Air Force's answer to the F-15 Eagle. And anyone who's seen the F-16 versus an F-15 is going to be able to tell you all about the size difference between those two types of aircraft. And we see the same basic idea here between the MiG-29 and the Su-35. There is a size modifier here. Okay, it's no bonus to hit the MiG-29. However, to hit that big flying school bus, the Su-35, yeah, there's a bonus to hit that thing because it is big. It's easier to spot, and it can carry a crap ton extra ordnance. Speaking of load-bearing capacity, yeah, look at the size of these missile loads. The Su-35 carries damn near double the missile load that the MiG-29 does. Alright, so heading over here to take a look at our actual pilots, we are going to notice that, again, it's 2-on-2. The MiG-29, number 1 is an ace pilot, and number 2 is a good pilot. The Russian pilots are solid, but not quite on the same level. So we have an ace and a good, and we have a good and an average. So by no means slouches, but just for today's scenario, also to kind of keep the game balanced, the Russians are going to be flying with slightly inferior pilots. We're also going to notice that their missile load has been, I just got done talking about how big the Russian missile loads were, they are suddenly the same as the MiG-29s. Alright, so what gives with that? In our scenario, we're just going to imagine that those Su-35s for the Russians are carrying a reduced air-to-air missile load because they're also carrying these Kh-31A hypersonic missiles that we've been hearing about for ground strikes on targets deeper in Ukrainian territory. Okay, so for now, I think I've blathered on enough. Jen, you said you wanted to play the Russians in this engagement?
Yeah, why not?
Alrighty, so the Russian setup area is here in the red corner, and the Ukrainians are setting up over here in the blue corner. I'll just go ahead and kick this thing off. I'm just going to go ahead and set up my guys here relatively close because I have more short-range missiles, and so I want to get close as fast as I can. And I'm going to go ahead and set my initial speed at... My maximum speed, I believe, was 26, so I'm just going to go ahead and start my initial engagement speed at 18. All right, Jen. And what did you have in mind for your initial approach speed?
I'm going to go in a little faster. Yeah, we'll do 20.
Very roughly speaking, guys, 13 to 15, it depends on your altitude, would be roughly Mach 1. 26 plus is coming up on Mach 2, but if you go too fast in this game, that's a fast way to lose an aircraft. So we're both coming in pretty brisk, but at the same time, not at insane speeds.
Let's go right to that corner.
All right. So,
bottom right corner.
No worries. So I'm going to zoom in on these guys real fast. Clearly, these planes are not to scale. The little blue dot that is in the center of each aircraft shows its true location. But if we made the planes to the actual ground scale of the map, we wouldn't be able to see the aircraft anymore. Here on the Sitrep podcast, when we're featuring AirWar C21, we're just kind of dumbing it down a little bit, and we're saying that each one of those grids there is roughly a quarter mile to half a mile. I did, however, try to get some approximation of the scale difference between these aircraft. Again, the MiG-29 is a much smaller bird than these big Su-35s. Okay, so going through the turn sequence here, we've pretty much already done our speed changes because it's the first turn of the game. Unless, Jen, you want to speed up or slow down at all? I don't.
No, I'm good.
All right, do we want to do any special maneuvers? I'll just go ahead and say that I don't.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
not with the school bus I'm driving.
We're too far away. And so, cool, we'll go straight to roll initiative. That's going to be a D10 for each aircraft, so I'll go ahead and get us started here. Alright, my ace pilot gets to add 2 to this roll. He winds up with a 6 adjusted, and my good pilot is going to add 1 to this roll. He starts off with a 5. Alright, Jen, roll a d10 and add 1 to the result.
My pilot number 1 rolled a 7, so he gets an 8.
Yep.
And my pilot number 2 rolled a 3, so he gets a 4.
Okay, he does not get to add 1 because he's average.
Oh,
he just sticks at
okay,
3.
so he got a 3.
Yep. Alright, cool. So our aircraft are going to move in reverse order. So the person with the worst initiative has to move first. We're going to go ahead and move our aircraft and let you guys know where we wind up. Okay, so AirWar C21 is actually a miniature game. People often play it in 1 to 300 or 1 to 600. How we do it here virtually, we have a map and we have a grid, and then we have these rulers and turning wheels that are scaled to match with the grid. So this little virtual ruler I have here measures out to 24 inches. Jen has to move her first aircraft. Now, how movement works in AirWar C21 is you execute the first half of your movement. She's moving at 20, so there's her first 10. Alright, and then she gets to make a turn if she wants. She's told me she doesn't want to make a turn. Is that correct, Jen?
Correct. Like I said, their mission was a ground attack, so they're moving in on that, and then they will react to the MiGs as they encounter them. Okay,
and this turning wheel, just in case, is how we would, calculate or measure those turns. A highly maneuverable aircraft is able to turn out to these H's you hear on the turn wheel, and the extreme maneuverability class aircraft can turn out to these E's. So she's making no turns here. That's no worries. She's going to go ahead and move the other 10 inches of her movement and put the blue dot right there on the 20. And then she makes her second turn, if at all. All right, Jen, we do have radar. You do see where I am. Did you want to make any turns, or?
Move not quite out to the H. 1 in from the H. So
okay.
That's the H.
That's the H right there?
Yes.
No worries at all. We'll go ahead and do that real fast. That's a medium turn, by the way. So, yeah, no worries. There we go. And that's how you do movement, the basic movement, without doing special maneuvers. Okay, everyone, our movement is now complete, and we're going to go ahead and enter the combat phase. No one is close enough for any of our guns, so it looks like we're all going for missiles. Okay, so our general engagement distance at the moment is about 2 feet on the game table. I should say that if these grids were all 1 inch, which is how we have it measured, this would be a 60 inch by 96 inch table, basically 5 feet by 8 feet. Alright, so here looking at our missile data, the maximum range for our short-range infrared missiles, those are AA-11 Archers, that's the NATO reporting name. The Russian name for them is the R-74EM. Has a range of between 4 and 26 inches, which again, looks like most of us are Okay, there's going to be some that won't reach. This ruler is 24 inches. But for at least these two lead planes, they can fire infrared missiles at each other. But even if they're not in range for the infrared, we do have the AA-10F Alamo. That is the, again, NATO reporting name. It's the R-27AE. This is a radar-controlled missile, though. It's an active radar homing missile, whereas the smaller Archers are basically Russian rip-offs of the Sidewinder. Those are infrared missiles. They're more accurate, however, they have a much shorter range. Again, we're sort of going with the historical timeline here. All kinds of Sidewinders have since been sent over to the Ukrainian Air Force. The Polish are sending more advanced versions of these former Soviet-era missiles, some missiles of their own. So even though they're still flying actually really old aircraft, and the Americans are trying to send them some F-16s as well, which themselves are, let's face it, pretty old aircraft by this point. Some of the ordnance and upgraded radar suites within those aircraft are pretty advanced. But again, we're like 3 weeks into the war, and none of this heavy-duty Western aid has reached Ukraine yet, so they're pretty much fighting with what they started the war with. Okay, Jen, so did you want to shoot any missiles at my aircraft? And if so, which ones? And which one of my aircraft are you engaging?
Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and start us off with a bang. Let's go ahead and shoot our longer range ones.
Okay.
And
from Sukhoi number 1 or 2. 1's your good pilot, 2 is your not so good pilot.
Let's pick on the weaker guy. I'll have my good pilot against your not so good pilot.
Okay, so to lock on with a radar guided missile, you have to roll on or over your aircraft's radar rating. So this 3+ looks like a really low number, but it's supposed to be a low number because you have very good radar. These are pretty advanced aircraft. Long story short, take your first shot. You gotta beat a 3 on a D10.
Okay. Let's see if I can blow this roll. Just barely, I rolled a 4.
Okay, well a 3 would have made it, so that missile has locked on, and that has launched. Go ahead and launch your second one.
Okay. And this did not lock. I rolled a 1.
Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and assume that the missile does not fire, so you don't waste the missile. Alright, that missile is on its way. Go ahead and roll for your second aircraft.
Okay, rolled a 3.
Alright, that is barely locked on with the first one. Go ahead and roll for the second missile from your second aircraft.
Another 3.
Barely. Alright, so 3 birds are in the air. As for me, I believe both my aircraft are within 26 inches. Actually, no, they're not. Doggone it. I'm going to go ahead and try to engage 2 of my AA-11s here on looks like your lead Sukhoi. Now, these guys don't use the radar of the aircraft. They use their own onboard guidance system, and they have a 2+ to lock on. Target aspect is all. I am in range. So here come, hopefully, 2 IR guided missiles from MiG number 1 against your Sukhoi number 1. Looking for 2+. Oh, barely. Okay, cool. So 2 missiles have locked on, and my other guy is going to have to settle for his radar-controlled missiles. These do use the aircraft's onboard radar system, so I'm looking for a 3. Okay, and those both locked on. Alright, cool. So missiles are off the rail, and they're coming in. We will go ahead and see how they impact the beginning of next turn. Okay guys, we are starting turn 2, and the first thing we're going to do is apply any speed changes. Jen, did you want to apply any speed changes to your aircraft? Right now, both your aircraft are moving at 20. That's about 1,000 knots.
Actually, no. They're going to keep closing.
I am definitely hitting the brakes because I'm afraid I'm going to eat one of these missiles, and if I do, yeah, you might actually wind up losing an aircraft even though you've only taken half damage if you're going too fast. So I'm able to decelerate by 4 per turn, so I'm switching from 18 down to 14. Now, normally in AirWar C21, if you want to do a special maneuver, you have like these secret cards that you use. Here are the special maneuvers that are available in the game. It's very tough to do card-driven mechanics in this sort of virtual environment here. So I just have like these little tiles that we use, and we just put them down on the table. So both my pilots are going to attempt brake turns, which The good news is it gives you a pretty solid bonus to evade incoming missiles. The problem, though, is whether or not the break turn succeeds or fails, and yes, you do have to roll for it, you cannot fire any weapons that turn. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going kind of defensive, and I am foregoing any gun or missile attacks this turn. Other than the missiles I already have in the air, I'm not going to be launching anything new this turn. Alright, Jen, so did you want to go ahead and declare any special maneuvers?
No, I'm coming in hard. I'm gonna gun you out of the sky.
Cool, so now I just have to see if my break turns succeed. Okay, so this is the number you have to beat on a D10. The lower number is for a high-powered aircraft, which my MiG-29s definitely apply, so I will be rolling against a 5. Make that +2 to my roll for my ace. I have to beat a 3, and then his wingman here, who is only a good pilot, he's going to have to beat a 4. So let's go ahead and turn on Mr. Camera here. Let's see if my ace makes it with an adjusted 3 or better on a D10. 10, he makes it with style. Alright, now his wingman is going to try the same thing. He has to beat a 4 up on a D10. Oh, he makes it, but not quite with the same amount of dash. Alright, so both my guys have succeeded with their break turns. We probably should have rolled initiative first. Let's go ahead and fix that now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and roll my initiative here. My ace rolls a 9, and my wingman rolls a 4. So 9 and 4. Okay, Jen, your ace, or your leader?
My good pilot rolled a modified 7,
Okay,
and
so
my average pilot rolled a 5.
Cool. You added 1 to your good pilot, right?
Yes.
Cool. Looks like my MiG-29 number 2 has to go first. And he declared a break turn. I'm an extremely maneuverable aircraft, extreme maneuverability class, and I made a break turn. So I can travel half my speed, which is, again, 14. And then he can turn up to 90 full degrees. So how we do it is I put the base of the wheel exactly on that blue dot. I get the turning wheel to where it is lined up with the aircraft's vector. Okay, he's going to move 7 inches there because his speed is 14. So he moves half his speed. That's 6. We'll just say that's 1 more. And then I get to execute a turn here if I wish. When in doubt, turn towards the enemy. That forces him to overshoot. Let's see, she's moving at 20. She's not going to be able to turn that much. I'm going to try to work on getting behind her. This is where you have to sort of think ahead. Alright, so that's my first turn. Again, extreme on a break turn. So these things are absurdly maneuverable. There's my second 6 inches. Again, I get 1 more inch after that. 7, that's my second half of my movement. And then I'll make another 90-degree turn. I'll just do it kind of rough and ready. Alright, so he basically just like completely 180 there. Alright, Jen, now we go to your second plane.
Okay.
Currently moving at 20. It's, yeah, you're not changing that. So we're going to start off with your 10. Boom. Okay, and now you can make a turn if you want.
Yep. I want to turn towards the enemy.
Cool. You're going to turn towards the enemy. You can turn out to the H.
I'm going to go 1 less. I'm going to go to the M.
Okay. And now we're going to move your second 10 inches of movement. Again, 0 on the blue dot. And you wind up right here. Oh, we're getting close. Looks like my little maneuver didn't work. I turned too fast. I'm supposed to be on your 6, not you on my 6. No! Okay, did you want to go ahead and turn again, or are you happy with where you are?
I'm happy with where I am.
I kind of thought so. All right. I definitely misjudged that distance. Okay, so now you move your second aircraft?
Ditto.
All right, now we're going to see if hopefully some of these missiles have collided. The good news for me is, again, both of my pilots have executed successful break turns. That is going to give me a bonus. That did not happen for you, so hopefully I'll I'm going to shoot down one of your aircraft here with missiles. We'll go ahead and resolve your missiles first. You have 3 medium-range active radar homing missiles coming in on my frontal arc. Alright, so there's a series of modifiers here that we're going to go through. First of all, the pilot skill modifier is I'm a good pilot, so I get to subtract 1 from your roll. Alright, so there's going to be -1 on that. Semi-active or active radar homing missile fired from the front. That's an additional -1. So far we're at -2. I did do a successful break turn. -3. 1, 2, 3. You're now at -5. And then I am going to drop some chaff versus an active or semi-active radar homing missile. Each one of our planes, by the way, carries 8 chaffs and 8 flares, so you'll be able to do this as well. Long story short, I've added it all up. You are at -6. Okay, so to hit with the Alamo is a 4+, and again, unfortunately for Jen, she is at a total of -6. She has to roll a 10 on a D10, but she does have 3 chances.
Alrighty, let's see. No, and no.
Alright, cool. So these 3 missiles have all missed. Cool, that's okay. You're about to probably blow me out of the sky with guns. Alright, now we're going to do the same thing with my 2 missiles. They're going to have the same chance because I was shooting at your lead MiG, so he's also a -1 on his pilot evasion check. The only difference is you did not do a break turn. So basically, I don't have to pay that +3 modifier for the break turn. So whereas you were looking for 10s, I'm going to be looking for 7s. Okay, so I got the camera going, and now we are looking for 7s on 2 tons. Boom, 1 missile has hit. Awesome. So that's going to be 2d6 of damage against your lead Su-35. Get these D10s out of here. So again, these smaller infrared missiles do 1d6 of damage. These larger radar-guided missiles do 2d6. Alright, so boom, right there is 9 points of damage. And that's all the aircraft has. That aircraft just blew up, and that's going to be pretty much the end of him. You're able to do a D10. You're looking for a 4 up to see if he punches out successfully.
Alright. Oh my god. Rolled a 1.
Oh, no, he did not punch out. So that is 1 Russian pilot down. Now, as far as those 2 smaller infrared missiles that I had in the air go, they absolutely do not get to switch targets in the middle of flight. That's not how it works. They locked onto MiG number 1. MiG number 1 is now a fireball. Alright, now this is all simultaneous, so you do get a gun attack with those 2 Su-35s.
Oh, excellent. They both get to fire. Okay.
Well, they're both within decent range, and they're both pointed directly at the target because of the way you had them positioned. So if you want to get technical, I mean, I know the right answer already, but how you would do it. Also, this gives me a chance to zoom in and show off my little aircraft pieces I made today. The gun arc, you can see it there, gun to gun. You see that gun arc right there? 15 degrees on either side of your center line. So clearly, Sukhoi number 2 has me within that arc, and if we go to Sukhoi number 2, yeah, that's even more blatant. It's almost like right smack dab on the center. You are within, actually you're just outside of 3 inches. Alright, yeah, so you're just outside of 3 on both of them. That might save them. Because inside of 3, it is absurdly powerful with guns. Okay, so here are some of the gun tables. As you can see, once you're within 3 inches, your chance to hit, you do this by D6s by the way, goes up a huge amount. In fact, it basically doubles. So thank God he is just outside of 3 inches from both targets. I'm assuming you're firing both fighters at him?
Oh, yes.
Alright, cool. So you're just over 3. You start off with 6d6 per plane. Alright, are you using a short burst, a normal burst, or a sustained burst? I would probably go with a sustained burst.
Yeah, sustained. Well, since I have a little bit of foreknowledge.
Well, for one plane,
conserving ammo isn't going to be necessary for one of my craft.
Now, just for our audience, do note that a sustained burst uses up 3 ammo points. These planes only carry 6. This guy is dropping the hammer, and he is not putting all 9 yards, as the saying goes, but 4.5 yards of ammunition. But this is a big automatic cannon that is just unloading at medium range into my fighter.
Yes, both craft will be doing sustained bursts.
So that's going to be 6 plus 2 makes 8. I did perform a successful maneuver, so I do get to have your dice. I did do a break turn in there. Alright, so both of your planes start off with 6 dice. You get to add 2 for doing your sustained burst, gets you up to 8 dice. Knock them down to 4 dice apiece because I did do a break turn. Thank God I did that break turn. So both of your aircraft get 4 dice. Those are D6s, by the way.
Yep.
So a total of 8 D6. Okay, you have to roll them separately because one of your pilots is good. So take 4 of those dice and roll against a 4-up.
Okay. This is for my good pilot who just got blown out of the sky.
It's normally a 5-up, but he goes down by 1, or his difficulty goes down by 1 because he's a good pilot.
4 up. I got 2 hits.
Okay, keep track of those. Now roll your other 4, but now these are going to be at 5-ups because the second pilot is average.
Okay. Only 1 hit out of 5 ups.
So it's a total of 3 hits?
Total of 3 hits, yes.
Okay, we may have shot each other down. So let's go over to my aircraft chart. This is my not-so-good pilot. He just took 3 points of damage. No worries there. He only has 6, so he is now crippled. Alright, that's not good. So when you're crippled, one of the first things that happens to you is your maximum safe speed immediately slashes to half. So I was at 26. My new save speed is 13. I am traveling at 14. Presto, 1 additional point of damage. Thank God I hit the brakes. Okay, when it comes time to taking damage, if you start taking cannon rounds at Mach 2, bad things happen really, really fast. Okay, so in addition to the points, we have to actually see what happened. We skipped this step for the Sukhoi 35 because we already know he took his maximum number of damage. The plane literally blew up in midair. We don't have to worry about all these details. But this guy has now been damaged, but he may not be shot down yet, so I have to roll some dice on the damage table. Now, the number of dice depends on the number of times I was hit. I was actually hit 3 times. Once by both aircraft, and then I took some velocity damage like we just went over. So what that means is, Jen, we're going to go ahead and roll some D10s. Go ahead and roll 1 D10. We'll see what that first aircraft did when he hit me with his 2 damage points.
2.
2 is 1 through 3, no extra damage. Alright, no worries. We go to the second aircraft that did 1 point of damage. It was only 1 point of damage, but it does count as an additional source of damage. Go ahead and roll another D10.
Alright, a 4.
A 4 is my radar system is knocked out. Good thing I just fired both of my radar-guided missiles. Okay, and then I took 1 more point of damage from the velocity excess. Go ahead and roll 1 more D10.
Okay, a 5.
A 5 is my missile system is knocked out. No more missiles can be fired, so I've now lost all missiles. Alright, so MiG number 2 has Squadouche as far as missiles go, and he is down 4 points. And that's going to wrap up turn number 2. If we come to the end of the turn sequence, this is where I will... Yeah, when I just took my excess speed damage, including my ordnance loads, I've lost all my missiles. So as we start turn 3, obviously the very first thing he's going to have to do, if nothing else, is at least tap the brakes by 1 to get to 13. By the way, just a footnote for people who play AirWar C21, I do believe when I did my brake turns that would have cost me some additional speed, so we may have had a slight speed reduced by 3. Okay, we made 1 slight rules mistake there, guys, but it's okay. Alright, and that would be the end of turn 2. We've got 1 Russian plane shot down, and we've got 1 Ukrainian plane damaged. We're going to go ahead and call it there for now, folks, because we've definitely got enough footage to make an episode for you guys. And this is where the remaining Russian pilot would probably bug out, to be perfectly honest. Jen, do you agree with that, or did you want to keep going?
Oh, no. The good pilot just blew up. We only have an average pilot who's outnumbered. He's heading home.
And he's up against the not Ghost of Kiev. He's going up against one of the many Ghosts of Kiev. Let's go ahead and put it that way. He's going up against one of the better pilots of the 40th Tactical Aviation Brigade. Unfortunately, historically, that good pilot was shot down and killed this day. But looks like today here in our game of AirWar C21, he beat the odds, and he's going to go ahead and make it home. Okay, Jen, so thanks very much for helping us out with today's game.
Thank you.
And that's where we're going to leave it for today, folks. Thanks very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Please Please remember to hit that notification bell. Also, please consider joining the Sitrep Podcast Discord. There is an auto-accept invitation link to our Discord in the description of this video. Join the community, see what everybody's up to, and best of all, show us what's happening on your hobby table. But for now, this is Oriskany Jim with the Sitrep Podcast. We are rounds complete for another episode, and as always, Tango Mike for watching.